yesterday we were on the, in UK you call tube, underground railway station. We were in Moscow underground railway station. We took this line 3, where the stopover at the Kiev station. I saw these murals, paintings. I was deeply touched. And I took a lot of pictures. I'll show you one or two. This is the one I like very much. And this is also another one. This is another one. And this is another one. I took a lot of them. Basically, I was thinking, if at the time of Soviet Union, obviously you saw, people from from Ukraine, from Russia, from other nationalities, ethnic groups, they can live together, building their country, agriculture, industry, science, technology, defense. Yet I say, if only the Soviet leaders at that time could be imaginative and think this Soviet Union as a civilizational state, rather than move in the direction of the Western dogmatism and the propaganda about the nation state. If there is a different ethnic groups, religions, nationalities, but they all live together under one civilization, Russian civilization, or you may call Eurasian civilization, whatever. That will be one way to deal with this kind of multi-ethnic group composition. Otherwise, the country tend to go disintegrated. That's what had happened in the Soviet Union. This breakup of the Soviet Union for most Chinese was also a shock. And we really felt regret. Socialism, we cherish dearly. We think we make socialism now a very successful example. We can make it. We learn a lot from Soviet Union. Yeah, we'll come to that, the Chinese model. But we learn it in a selective and critical way. We try to adapt this model, Soviet model, into the Chinese context. So if only the Soviet Union could use this term, concept, civilizational state, they could have avoided this collapse of Soviet Union. Because civilized state, from my research, we use a Marxist terminology, the higher stage of development than the American system. That system was backward and is backward. Yeah. So that's my article back in the 2006, in November 2nd. I wrote a short article on the attraction of the Chinese model, allure of the Chinese model. And I said the Chinese model, however imperfect, has worked far more effectively than what can be called the American model, as represented by the IMF-designed structural adjustment program for sub-Saharan Africa and the shock therapy for Russia. Yeah. And because I came to the Soviet Union in the year 1990, I realized Gorbachev's reform was a failure. And he listened too much to the American advisor, which is totally wrong. Yeah. And so after why I wrote this article in the year 2006, because I traveled over 106 countries. I tried to have an overall grasp of the Chinese model and the American model in the international context through international comparative studies. So I came to this humble conclusion. It turned out to be right. That said, I well remember Chairman Deng Xiaoping telling the visiting president of Ghana, Jerry Rawlings, in September 1985, he said, please don't copy our model. If there is any experience on our part, it's to formulate policies in light of one's own national conditions. That's the key message from the Chinese model. Don't copy any models, but follow your own national conditions and then produce your own models. Other models can be a reference. You can learn it selectively. Because Deng Xiaoping came to Moscow in the year 1926. He spent 11 months, almost 1 year here. That was the still the era of Lenin's what's called the new economic policy. Because at first, Lenin practiced what's called the war communism, which means everything was collectivized for the war. But gradually he felt you have to relax the economy. So he began to welcome foreign investment, began to have a private ownership, etc. So Deng Xiaoping saw that when he was in Moscow. So he said that communism, socialism can be flexible. But in China, the ideological debate about market was continuous for many, many years. In the end, Deng Xiaoping said, don't argue on that. It's neutral. So we began to follow this, what we call the socialist market economy. And it really brings about new life into socialism. If you look at the difference between Chinese Communist Party and the Soviet Communist Party, one key difference is by the time when Gorbachev began his reform, his memory of Lenin was already dead. He forgot Lenin completely, Stalin completely. But when Deng Xiaoping began his reform, Deng Xiaoping was the same leadership, same generation of Chairman Mao Zedong. And Deng Xiaoping was 10 years younger than Mao, but he lived 10 years longer than Mao, who became the second generation of leaders. So of course, he was not going to abandon socialism, abandon Mao. And when the Soviet Communist Party held the 20th Party Congress, which criticized Stalin in a secret report, Deng Xiaoping was present on behalf of the CCP. He attended that conference. And he said, you cannot treat an international figure this way. In other words, in the end, especially if we look back today, it's so important to keep Chinese socialism, to keep the leadership of the party. By the way, when Gorbachev was in power, I was told when he was asked, how do you think of Gorbachev? He said at that time, within very small circles, he said, this guy looks intelligent, but stupid. I told this to many Russians, they share this view. Yeah, he lost his. He has so many bargaining chips. If you lose, you don't lose that way. You know? So it's a kind of idealistic, we're childish. So as a not sophisticated, and fortunately, China still stick to socialism. We think it's most Chinese think socialism is right, but we have to incorporate many elements of capitalism. Yeah, Deng Xiaoping said we should learn and borrow whatever is good in human civilization, including capitalist, but you must keep socialism in dominance. That's why we keep this overall balance: political power, social power, capital power, in favor of the most Chinese people. So most Chinese are beneficiaries of this decades of huge change. Thank you.